Okay, Shannon, you can put us on now.
Okay.
Hi, good morning. This is the matter of Morse versus Hillary. We're here today for an evidentiary hearing on the defendant's motion to change custody, etc. Mr. Hotchkiss is here for the defendant, and the defendant is present. The plaintiff is not present. And before we went on the record, I'm getting some feedback somewhere. Before we went on the record, Mr. Hotchkiss attempted to contact the plaintiff on her cell phone and just got voicemail. Did you leave her a voice message, Mr. Hotchkiss?
I did, Your Honor.
All right, we'll keep an eye on the waiting room to see if she zooms in. Well, I don't know where that feedback is coming from, Peter. Doesn't appear to be coming from anybody's device. The only thing lit up is.
Do you have your YouTube in the background going?
No, I checked that, but it's not. YouTube is behind. This whatever's happening is current, but it's picking me up somehow.
I don't see anyone's screen lighting up.
Let me check my. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I didn't see. It's not showing whose screen it belongs to.
Yeah, I wasn't saying anything, so it should have been me.
I hear no feedback, Your Honor, from my end. It sounds perfectly clear to me, so I don't know if it's just in the courtroom or what you're experiencing, but I hear no feedback. It's crystal clear on my end.
All right, well, let's. It's distracting. It is happening in the courtroom.
Is it because Shannon muted?
Oh, I didn't think that.
It could be Shannon's fault. That would make sense.
I don't even know if her device.
Shannon.
No, it says my microphone is muted.
All right, so it shouldn't be her.
It's not her.
Enough of that, Matthew.
If you.
Oh, we did hear you just now, Shannon.
Do you keep this one unmuted? The courtroom?
Yeah, this is the Polycom. So
you need that one.
Yeah, I need that one. If I mute that, they won't be able to hear me.
Is it your Judge LaFlamme's screen then?
Well, that's what this is right here.
Is there a speaker?
No, see, I didn't join with computer audio. It shouldn't even be connected. And it isn't normally.
Judge, do you want me to leave and see if that does anything?
Why
Because I don't.
don't you try that? Let's see what happens.
Shouldn't. But.
All right. Okay. I think that might have been it, Shannon.
Okay, well, we got to fix that before neglect day.
All right. Well, no, we're still getting it, so it wasn't Shannon. All right. In any event, let's just go forward. I can hear. It's just a little bit distracting. Mr. Hillary, would you raise your right hand, please? You do swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, Your Honor.
Please state, you can put your hand down. State your full name for the record.
Theodore Andrew Hillary.
Go ahead, Mr. Hotchkiss.
Thank you. Mr. Hillary, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, excellent. And for the benefit of the court, would you state your son's name, please?
Maxwell David Hillary.
Okay, and how old is Max now?
16.
16, okay. And what is your current custody arrangement with Max?
It would be, well, right now we're doing week on and week off, but my current custody would be pretty much every other weekend or every weekend
Every
believe it's
weekend?
how it's written. I believe that's how it's written in the order. But we are currently doing week on and week off, and we have been since the last hearing. Sunday to Sunday.
Sunday to Sunday. Okay. And how is that going? How is the week on, week off going?
Everything's going really well. He seems to be okay with it. He, I think being out of school presents a little bit of a challenge for him because he, likes to be in school sometimes for the lab work and stuff. But I'm not sure when that's going to resume yet. But he's okay with the week on, week off. I preferred the 2 weeks to 2 weeks. I think it's less driving and less disruption. But she was wanting the week on and week off, so that's what we agreed to.
Sure. And for the court's awareness, why is it that you were requesting the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or week on, week off? Why was it that you were requesting that?
Well, because I have a new house, and I just wanted to have my son with me more. And we have our own space, and I think it would just be better all the way around for him now that he's a little older. So.
And where's your new house located?
I currently live in Mattawan, Michigan. It's 10 minutes east of Kalamazoo. Or I'm sorry, 10 minutes west of Kalamazoo.
Sure. And why is it that you moved to that location?
For the more space to be able to get him on a regular basis. We aren't dealing with room issues as far as because my fiance has children of her own, and so we were always competing for space with everybody. So now that I was able to, I purchased a house that has 4 bedrooms. He has his own room now. He's not sharing a room anymore. So that's why.
Sure. And to the best of your knowledge, I know it's hard to gauge with a 16-year-old, but does Max seem to enjoy your home?
Yes, he does. Yep.
Sure.
I've got all kinds of stuff to do there. I have a little bit of acreage, so there's always things outside that need to be done, and he's been fine with doing all that. I think he likes it pretty good.
Good. And to touch on the school issue, so has Max always been in online school?
No, he was in JPEC for a while, and because of his autism, he didn't really do well in a classroom setting. So the online school seemed to work a little bit better for him. And they were doing lab work, which I guess that would be just when he would go into the school itself. Excuse me. And he would go in a couple days a week and work on stuff there. The rest of it is online, and he's been doing really well. Since they've closed everything down, it's been a little bit more of a challenge for him to try and stay on task with it. That's, what I try to do nonstop with him is try to keep him on task.
Sure. Now, does Max, I know that you alluded to him having autism. Does he see any sort of specialist, or does he see any sort of particular individual to help him with schoolwork or to help him with anything really?
No, not anymore. He doesn't. It's very mild, referred to as Asperger's syndrome. But the last counselor that we had him with kind of thinks more blind. It's more along the lines of kind of like an ADD/autism combination. So it's real mild, and the older he gets, the more he seems to outgrow it. So it's not a learning disability or anything like that. It's just more of a shyness and social shyness.
Sure. And was Max in an online school then, or virtual learning before COVID?
Yes, he was.
Okay. For how long?
Approximately a year.
Sure. Okay. And obviously, I'm going to assume Max goes to a doctor, dentist, all that good stuff that kids are supposed to go to and see.
Yep, he
and
goes to, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, please.
No, he has I have a dentist over here that I have him. He regularly goes to, and he's getting his wisdom teeth out here next month. But yeah, he has a doctor that's in Jackson at the Center for Family Health right now. Currently, going to find him a doctor over here. It's a little bit more convenient for me to get him back and forth to the doctor on a regular basis when he needs it.
Sure. And for your purposes, do you take Max to any appointments that he has in Jackson County, or do you try to do all those appointments? You take him to all the appointments here?
Yes, that, or if it's inconvenient for me, my parents will do it. She does do it on occasion, but it's mostly myself or my parents.
Sure. Now, with that, do you have the ability? Let's see that, and I think you stated that Max does go to school or does go to in person for lab work a couple of times a week. Do you have the ability to transport him if those occur in Jackson County?
Yes, I could do that. That would be something that I could do in the morning because I work in the afternoons.
Sure.
So if that was necessary, yeah, that could happen. Depending on what days it is, just work around that schedule.
Absolutely. And for your employment, since you touched on that, what are your normal work hours?
I work from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to almost midnight. I work at the power plant in Holland for Consumers Energy.
I see. And how long have you had that employment?
I've been there for 5.5 years.
Okay. And you believe that job is, I shouldn't say flexible enough that you would be able to accommodate Max's schedule appropriately? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I have it's pretty flexible to where I can get away. I can do that kind of stuff.
Sure. And how are your interactions with Miss Morse or Miss Hillary, whichever she'd like to be called, but how are your interactions with her?
Kind of non-existent. We do talk on occasion, but for the most part, it's become more adversarial. I'm not sure why. But most of my communication I have to do through my son. That's why I got him a phone so that I could communicate with him for pickups and drop-offs. But I have a hard time getting hold of her at times. So
Sure. And I know that you stated Max was 16. Does he have a license or a vehicle?
No, not yet. I'm in the process of teaching him how to drive so that we can work towards him getting his learner's permit.
Sure. And with Miss Hillary, does she? How is she with the pickups and drop-offs so far? With this week-on, week-off schedule you've been practicing, how has that been going? The pickups and drop-offs.
I have been, with the exception of one time, she met me halfway so that I could pick him up, and then she didn't do it on the return trip, and that's the only time. Other than that, I do all the driving. Now there was a time where there was an agreement to meet, but I ended up having to come to Jackson to help my parents with some stuff, so I just canceled that and picked him up instead.
I see. And with the week-on, week-off schedule, how is Max adjusting to that, the week-on, week-off portion of it?
I don't see any problem with him at all with that. I text him usually on Saturday, ask him if he's ready for pickup on the next day, make sure he's got all his stuff, and he says he's always ready to go. So, and it's generally I pick him up anywhere from 12:30 to 1:30 and drop him off at approximately the same time on the following Sunday.
Sure. Now, if you can remember, how long have you been doing this schedule with your every weekend parenting time? How often have you been doing that? Like how long have you been doing that for?
Oh, quite a long time.
Was it prior to your employment with the power plant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So since that
Yeah.
time, you've had new employment and you have this new house since the last time you had a custody arrangement scheduled.
Yes, 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 I do.
Okay. Sure. And just for my own knowledge, has there ever been any issues with domestic violence as it relates to Miss Hillary,
No,
Miss Morse?
none.
No. Okay.
No,
And,
none.
and is there any issue with that in your current home?
No,
Okay. And
No.
for Miss, in relation to Miss Morse, and I don't know if you'll know this information or not, but is she currently employed?
I know that she's been looking for employment since she lost her job the last time. And I don't know that if she is yet or not. No.
Okay. And where was she working before?
She was working at the, it was the place out there, I believe it's at Clark Lake. I can't think of the name of it. The guy that owned Daryl's opened this place out there. I can't think of the name of it.
Was it the Point?
Yes, that's it. Yep.
Okay. And she, due to COVID, she no longer has that employment.
Yes, I believe they've closed up their business. They shut down.
Sure. And to the best of your knowledge, does Miss Hillary have reliable transportation?
Yes. Yeah, she just bought a newer vehicle about a year and a half ago or so, something like that. It's pretty reliable. So.
Okay. Why do you believe it's in Max's best interest to have either a week on or 2 week on, 2 week off parenting time with you? Why is that in his best interest?
A little bit more consistency, the things that he can learn from just being with his father, trying to get him ready for, life on his own.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
Sure. And prior to this, when you were doing the weekend parenting time, and again, this was some time ago, why is it that was the arrangement that you had? Why did you have the every other weekend or every weekend parenting time? Was it why?
That was just the agreement that kind of like the general agreement from the front of the court. I didn't have at the time. I didn't have the space available to do the week on, week off or the 50-50 generally, just because we're trying to share everything as much as we could with all the kids. Now that some of the kids are older and they're gone. And again, like I moved and bought a new house, have all the space now. He has his own room. So there's no sharing or anything like that anymore. So he can come, he has all his own clothes, his own dressers, all that stuff. So it's just like a second house for him. Generally.
Sure. Absolutely. Your Honor, I don't know if you have any questions for my client, but that would conclude the testimony I'll have through him, and I would proceed to making an argument then on Mr. Hillary's behalf if the court has no questions for him.
Actually, I do have a few. So, Mr. Hillary, I see that when the current custody order was entered, and it looks like it was entered by consent, it showed that you were living in Jackson. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. I had moved. I'm sorry.
When did you move from Jackson?
I moved from Jackson in 2013 over to Kalamazoo.
So not this particular order was entered in April of 2013. Do you remember when you moved?
I believe it was in June, roughly in June. I had moved. Had just moved back to Jackson from out of state in 2012, fall of 2012, and we were wanting to live in the Kalamazoo area, but I had a family member that had a place for us to rent from them until we found a place over in Kalamazoo. And had started working at Max Steel or Gerdau.
So, in April of 2013, at the time you entered this consent order, did you have plans of moving?
We were looking at the time. We were looking to move over there at the time. That was our intent initially. We were just staying in Jackson for the time being.
So after you, well, let me tell you, when did you move to the Kalamazoo area?
I believe it was like the beginning of June in 2013.
And after you moved, you continued the practice of every weekend parenting time. Looks like there were 2 children involved then, but is that correct?
Yes, my older son.
And you continued the every weekend parenting time until when?
Until, when was it? The last hearing that we had when we started doing the week on and week off, a little bit, maybe just a little bit before that. It was right when I bought my house back in November.
Okay. So in November, you bought this larger home that allows you to accommodate your son every week as opposed to just on weekends.
Yes.
And this week on, week off arrangement is something that you and Ms. Morse agreed upon?
It is, Your Honor.
And the reason you want every 2 weeks is just so you don't have to drive quite so much?
Well, I think it would be, my initial thought was that, and she had agreed to 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off as well, as I thought it would be less disruption for him and less back and forth driving for the both of us as well. If he was with me for 2 weeks, then I could have the consistency with him for 2 weeks, and then he could go back with her. But the week on and week off has been working as well.
So I guess I missed something here. So you agreed with her to the week on, week off, and then you said she also agreed to 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. What happened to that agreement?
Well, it was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And then when this started, basically when I hired Matt, she got upset because I got a lawyer. And so then she went back to week on, week off.
All right. Well, let me make sure I got this timeline. So when you first bought your house,
yes,
you both started doing 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And then after you filed your motion, she dug her feet in and said, no, let's do every other week.
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor. And it was only, it only had last, it was only one time. So like when it first started, it was only for 2 weeks, and then he went back. And then, so that was approximately during that 1 month of me having him 2 weeks and her having him the next 2 weeks is when everything started, and she went back to week on and week off.
So you mentioned that Max is doing predominantly online schooling, with the exception that when the school is open, he does go into the school to do lab work. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
How frequent was this lab work when the school was open?
I believe it was 2 days a week, and it's usually only for 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours at each time. It's just so that he can go in and get some help with things if he needs, if he has questions, they can help him there as well instead of doing it online.
So, and JPEC is at the community college or Jackson College?
Yes, that's where he did go to school, correct.
All right. And if they reopen, that's where the lab work will be at the school location.
Right now, he does not go to JPEC anymore. He goes to Southwestern Michigan Virtual, and that's in it's right there at the Paca Plaza in the back of it. They're located inside there. They have a whole area. They have classrooms in there and everything.
Oh, and he does. And when he goes in, excuse me, when school's in session for lab work, that's where he goes, is at Paca Plaza.
Yes, sir.
How often was that before the school closed?
Like I said, I think it was like 2 days a week, maybe 3. It depended on, if he needed it. It's not a requirement that he goes in. It's just if he needs help, he can go in. All of his stuff is online. So if he's doing well and they don't think he needs to come in for anything, or if he doesn't feel like he wants to, or feel like he has to, then he doesn't need to go in. It's all voluntary based.
So this that you just described, in fact, is what was taking place before the school recently went totally virtual.
Correct.
And in fact, it's been in place since you and Ms. Morse started observing the week on, week off practice.
Yes.
So when he was with you, when the school was open and needed to go in for lab, how did that happen?
Oh, the school was closed. When he started doing week on, week off with me, the school was closed. They closed the school back when COVID started last year, toward the middle of the year. They closed all in learning or in class learning. They'd shut all that down.
I see. When is the last time he actually went to the school then? Sometime over a year ago?
Yeah, approximately a year ago.
So currently the need to be in for lab work isn't even a reality because the school's not even open to allow that to happen.
That's correct.
Okay.
But, when they do reopen, it's not a problem for me to. I'm sure if there was a problem that he needed to go in, Karen probably would work with me. I mean, to do maybe a different day to pick up and drop off still on the week on, week off. We could switch days during the week, if it was Monday and Tuesday, he had to go in, then we could do that. Otherwise, I have no problem with taking him in for a few hours to do his lab work. Because again, I work in the afternoon, so I have all my morning time is free.
And so currently, you've been doing 100% of the transportation except on one occasion.
That is correct, Your Honor.
On the one occasion that you did meet halfway, where did you meet?
I guess it would be considered the Marshall exit. It's the first Marshall exit heading west from Jackson, exit 110.
Is that where the Love's gas station is?
It's the one right after that. So maybe it's the second one. There's a Shell station there, and there's a little restaurant, and then on the south side of the freeway, there's a TA truck stop. We met at the Shell station there.
All right, and that's something the two of you agreed on as a mutually convenient location?
Yes.
And why did that only happen once?
She, again, it goes back to her being a little miffed about me hiring Matt. And so she stopped driving. She stopped agreeing to it. And then she wouldn't do it for the longest time. And then I kept asking, and finally she agreed to do it the one time. The next time, she wouldn't do it. And I've asked a couple times, it's never came around. There's the one time that when I was talking with Max, that he said that they had agreed to do it, but then I ended up having to come to Jackson anyway to help my parents. So
you would like to see meeting halfway for exchanges going forward?
I would. And there are times,
What
you know,
what exit was that again?
Exit 110.
Thank you. And you were about to say something else. I think there's a little bit of a delay here, so we keep stepping on each other's sentences.
I apologize for that.
It's not your fault.
I go to Jackson to see my parents, to help them out. They're 80 years old. And so I go to Jackson to help them whenever they need it, but typically it's going to be once a month usually. So on those times I have no problem with either dropping him off, you know, or picking him up for that. So it doesn't need to be every single time, but it would be great to, because it takes me, it's roughly 2.5 hours out of my Sundays driving back and forth with him. So
Yeah, so Max is 16, right?
correct.
Is he driving yet?
No, not yet. I've been teaching him. I've been giving him lessons. Probably going to get him into driving school this fall, or maybe later this summer.
I don't. Do you have any concerns about the living conditions at his mother's house?
I don't know enough about. No, I guess not. No, Your Honor.
If I were to ask Max, do you want to keep doing the week on, week off? Would you rather do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off? What do you think he'd tell me?
Well, being that he's pretty shy about stuff, he'd probably say, I don't know, you know, but I think he's fine with what's happening right now. He's pretty easygoing, happy kid, and he just kind of goes with the flow of stuff. I try to ask him all the time if he's happy, so, and he always indicates to me that he's fine with everything the way it is.
So
he hasn't indicated anything different.
So if I remembered correctly, the main reason for you wanting to go to 2 on, 2 off was because of the extent of the driving that was required. If she's meeting you halfway, does that make the week on, week off more palatable to you?
It does, yes.
All right, I don't have any more questions. Mr. Hotchkiss, do you want to ask some follow-up questions based on what I've posed?
No, Your Honor, that was very thorough. So I believe that anything that I would ask has been answered appropriately. So I have nothing further.
All right, I guess we're ready for your argument.
Sure, Your Honor, and I'll be brief. Really, I think there's been a substantial change in circumstance to Mr. Hillary's position. He's got wonderful gainful employment that allows him to do many things, including purchasing a home for his son. He's done so. Every move that he's made has been for the betterment of Max and his future. The home seems to be in perfect condition and is ready to accommodate him and has accommodated him. Mr. Hillary has gone above and beyond on every occasion in regards to transport. And I understand that it was Mr. Hillary who moved to Matawan County. However, again, it's in search for a better life for Max, and his employment allows him to do that. He still maintains his appointments. He's looking for a doctor. He's got a dentist set up there. He's done everything for Max's future. He's the one that's initiating the drives. He's the one initiating teaching Max how to drive. He's initiated everything, Your Honor. The burden has been on his shoulders, and he's done so marvelously. And I think that Mr. Hillary's effort should be rewarded in kind to allow him to spend more time with his son while he still can. Since he's 16, I mean, once a 16, 17-year-old gets a car, I know when I did, I wasn't around home much. So I'm sure Mr. Hillary wants to enjoy as much time with his son as he possibly can while he still can. So I would ask this court to enter into an order granting the week on, week off parenting time schedule, and for a halfway meeting point wherever the court deems to be appropriate, so that Mr. Hillary is not bearing that burden on driving all of the time. This will also alleviate, I believe, any concerns Ms. Hillary would have in an effort so that Mr. Hillary's not driving, an hour and a half, 2 hours one way, an hour and a half, or however long it is the other way as well, so that all parties can benefit. Ms. Hillary has reliable transportation, and Ms. Hillary is searching for a job but doesn't have employment, so she doesn't have the confines of time that Mr. Hillary has. So I believe that this agreement and arrangement would be to the benefit of all parties, specifically Max being able to spend equal time with both parents and looking forward to his education. And if such time ever for in-person learning again, if that's ever going to be a thing again, I believe the parties can work well together enough to be able to accommodate that schedule, Your Honor. So I would ask the court to enter an order into that effect, and then pursuant to a change in custody and parenting time, I'd also ask the court to include in that order a recalculation of child support, as the previous order gave Mr. Hillary a certain set number of overnights. This would, of course, increase that number of overnights to 182.5. So I would just ask for a recalculation based on that figure. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Hotchkiss. The court specifically finds that it is in Max's best interest that he have a week on, week off schedule with each parent. And frankly, the best evidence for that being in his best interest is that this is something that the parties mutually came up with without a court order. And it seems to be working. And even though Ms. Morse is peeved because a motion was filed, she still continued to observe this. That's a pretty good indication that the parents, when they're getting along, are able to figure out what's in their son's best interest. And frankly, it's always, or almost always, best when the two parents can figure it out and figure out what's in their son's best interest. They've done that. In fact, to the point that, granted, it's only been 5 months or so, it looks like this is a clear, established custodial environment that the court needs to continue. To change it at this point runs the risk of disrupting, to go back to every weekend as opposed to what the parties have voluntarily agreed to and have been observing for several months, would frankly require clear and convincing evidence that that's in Max's best interest. I don't think so. I think clearly it's in his best interest to continue on the course that he likes, that works for his parents. So the only real thing I have to change here is, one, the parties need to meet at exit 110 at 1 p.m. every Sunday to do the exchange. And there's some flexibility with the time, but there's got to be communication about that. If there isn't communication, it needs to be 1 o'clock. I realize you got a 16-year-old kid here. And you know, for whatever reason, sometimes things come up, but just communicate over it. I don't think you'll have any problems with that. Holidays and breaks will be according to the front of the court handbook. I'm going to order child support to be recalculated consistent with this week on, week off parenting time, effective the date that the motion was filed, which I believe was November, I just had it, November 12th. And since the parties have been doing this since November, it's only fair that the child support be effective the date that they started observing this practice. Mr. Hotchkiss, you'll prepare an order consistent with my ruling today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Good
time.
luck to you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Your Honor.
Hillary.
Thank you, Your
You're
Honor.
welcome. Have a good day.
You as well.
Thank you.